Welcome to the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
Welcome back to another night of fantastic fish talk on the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report. I am Brie Gabrielle, and alongside me is Captain Rick Murphy, and we have a great show lined up tonight. It's all about swordfish.
That's right, Brie. It is all about swordfish. So we brought in the guru of swordfishing, RJ Boyle, in the house, plus my friend from the FWC. We're talking about George Pino. We're talking about boating safety, Brie.
That's right, but that's not all, Rick, because we have tickets to give away to tickets to the Daytona 400, which we are going to be at next weekend. So make sure you're standing by to win that. What do you think about that, Dave?
Well, man, I'd love to have those tickets myself.
Would you?
You got to love the 400. There's nothing like watching those cars go by. It makes you can feel it in your body when they go by there. I had no idea. It's amazing.
You got your guru next to you there?
He's the swordfish master.
It's all about swordfish.
That's right.
We'll be talking about that.
All right, Rick, why don't you tell us a little bit about the swordfish?
Brie, it is about swordfish. So we're going to take a look at this week's Marlin magazines. And now the swordfish, they come in a variety of different sizes. The great thing about daytime swordfishing, you typically catch bigger swordfish. Great fish to eat as well. And the smaller fish are usually caught at night. And I'm sure a lot of the guides are going to cover that. So we got a lot to cover tonight. So let's get going.
Okay, well, we're going to start the night off with Jiminy Bimini, a.k.a. Jimbo Thomas from the Southeast region. Tell us what the swordfish bite is doing, Jimbo.
Hey, Rick and Brie. Well, hey, we got some great swordfish here in the Southeast region. And the fishing's good throughout the year, but just like any kind of fishing, the bite can be hot or cold. Now, we typically fish in 1,400 to 2,000 feet of water, which is anywhere from 15 to 20 miles offshore. That's depending on what part of the region you're fishing out of. Now, traditionally, swordfish were only caught at night, and that's when they come up to the surface to feed. And the basic plan of attack is to drift a combination of rigged and live baits at various depths from the surface on down to 400 feet or so. We like to use 50 or 80-pound class tackle while fishing at night. Now, on the brighter nights, you want to fish the baits on the deeper side. Then on the darker nights, the fish will come up closer to the surface, so you want to fish your bait a little closer. The moon phase does play a huge part on how well the swords are going to bite in both the day and the nighttime. Now, my good friend Captain Art Sapp aboard the Native Sun, he does a lot of daytime and nighttime sword fishing out of Hillsborough Inlet. He feels that the best time to swordfish is 10 days before and 10 days after the full moon. And then right on the full moon, the fishing is typically on the slow side. Now, in the last 6 to 8 years, daytime deep dropping for swords has become very popular. We call it deep dropping because we're fishing our baits near the bottom in 1,500 to 2,000 feet of water, and that's a long way down, and it's a much longer way up, especially when you're fishing 12 to 15 pounds of weight. That's what you need to hold bottom out there in the middle of the Gulf Stream. That is why most people, including myself, use an electric reel. We fish with anywhere from 60 to 130-pound braided line, and the rig for daytime and night times is sword fishing. It's fairly similar. Long 300-pound monofilament leaders, 10-0 to 12-0 hooks, and multiple lights attached above the bait. Now, from my experience, these swordfish are not very picky about what they eat. We've caught them on live blue runners, dead squid, bonita strips, mackerel, ladyfish, bluefish, and our favorite bait is a dolphin. So it really doesn't seem to matter what you drop down. If it goes in front of a swordfish, they're typically going to bite it. Now, I've heard of swords in the last couple of weeks up to the 500-pound class, but the average size is anywhere from 50 to 300 pounds. Now, I got a picture here. This week's Thomas Flower T-shirt winner was submitted by Richard DeLeon, and this swordfish was caught on Captain Travis Dickens' Man of War, which is a charter boat out of Bud and Mary's in Alamorada. Next week's theme is Marlin, so post your pictures to the Thomas Flower Facebook page to have your chance to win a Thomas Flower T-shirt. Now, since we're heading offshore looking for swordfish, we might as well look for some dolphin along the way. The Gulf Stream has been pretty much slick calm in the last week, making it real easy to spot any fish activity or any floating debris on the surface. There have been lots of schoolies, anywhere from 6 to 15 miles offshore. They've been around scattered weed lines, and most of the fish have had birds working over them. Seems like the bird activity has been picking up a little more towards the afternoon as well. Now, the only drawback is that a lot of these fish have been on the small side, which is great for the future, but that doesn't help us out right now. So unless you get lucky and come across some larger fish, which have been few and far between, you're going to have to weed through these smaller ones to cull out the keepers. Now, we've been catching most of the fish on cut bait, and I like to use bonita, and any larger fish we've come across, we've been pitching live pilchers to them. And when the grass hasn't been too bad, we've been getting bites trolling small feathers, lures, and rigged ballyhoo. Now, remember, the dolphin have to be 20 inches to the fork of the tail to be legal, so try not to beat up these small ones too bad when you go to release them, so that way we can catch them when they grow up. Now, moving inshore, we still have plenty of tarpon roaming the inlets, bridges, and the deeper holes throughout the region. Best fishing is going to be in the evenings using live crab or mullet. And around the inlets, look for the tarpon rolling or for marks on your depth machine. Then you want to drift that area with the live crab. If you're fishing around the bridges and the dock lights, work the shadow lines on the outgoing tide with the crabs or the mullet. And then in those deeper holes, the live mullet have seemed to be working better than the crabs, although when you're using those crabs, there's always a chance of hooking a permit, and most of these tarpon have been in the 50 to 100-pound range. Now, we also have sea trout in Biscayne Bay. In the north end of the bay, there have been schools of small pilchards on the grass flats on 79th Street Causeway south to Government Cut, and these trout have been following the bait. Early in the morning, before the water temperature starts to heat up, is when they've been biting the best. And look for pelicans sitting in the water or any bird activity, and also look for ripples on the surface to locate these schools of bait. Now, most of the bait on the flats has been too small to actually use for bait, so unless you can find some pilchards of size, try using small, live, or cut pinfish, or hook up or bass assassin jig head with a gulp or Trigger X bait under a Cajun Thunder. On the higher stages of the tides, you want to fish the tops of the flats, and then as the water falls, fish the deeper edges and channels. Now, my buddy Captain Alan Sherman, he's been catching trout from 15 inches to over 20 inches. He's been getting the larger trout by fishing a pinfish cut in half, and he's putting it under that Cajun Thunder. And this same setup has also produced some big mangrove snappers up to 16 inches, but the key is to find the bait.
All right, great report from the Captain Harry's Fishing Supply Southeast Region. Jimbo, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots inshore. Look for the bait activity on the grass flats of Biscayne Bay. Fish live or cut bait for sea trout and mangrove snappers. And then offshore, head offshore and look for the birds working over the schools of dolphin. Have the cut bait ready, Brie.
All right, speaking of ready, second up to bat is Captain Pat Deneen from the Panhandle region. What's going on up with the sword fishing up there, Pat?
Hey, Brie, I tell you what, blue water trips off the Panhandle usually involve a pretty long run, and as such, many of those trips turn into overnight trips. So sword fishing during that overnight time is very popular and productive. The daytime bite is getting more attention, especially since the word has gotten out about the booby trap and all the success those boys from Texas have been having daytime fishing, but it's still mainly a nighttime event. Good areas to fish are the spur, south of there along the DeSoto Canyon wall, and also west of the spur towards the steps. We primarily focus in depths from 900 to 1,400 feet. Baits of choice are jumbo squid or Boston mackerel, and some crews like to fish with live blue runners or bonita strips. But like Jimbo was saying, swordfish aren't real particular. They'll eat a variety of baits, and we've caught them on ladyfish and bluefish as well. I like to use 200 to 300-pound leaders, 10 to 14-aught circle hooks, and I put a light and a weight about 15 to 20 feet up above the leader. We fish the shallow bait off the rod tip 50 to 100 feet down, and then the deeper baits going from 200 to 400 feet are floated out away from the boat underneath the balloon. And the size of our swordfish up here, they vary from very small. I've seen little cute lawn dart-looking swordfish, and I've seen them up to 300 pounds. But I'd say 60 to 70 pounds is pretty much the average. And those are actually the really nice eating-size swordfish right there. Staying offshore with the swordfish, the green water is out right now to the south of the spur. And the blue water, there's a pretty good blue water line running south of the spur, south of the double nipple down towards the Independent Sub, with real pretty blue water on the south of it and greenish water on the north side. This past weekend, this line was made up for 25 miles or so with a beautiful color change and grass line. And there's some blue marlins caught on it, white marlins caught, wahoos, dolphins. So troll a mixed spread. You never know what you're going to run into. So troll a mixed spread, ballyhoo lure combinations, Yozuri bonitas tight right behind the boat with the trolling lead, and then also larger to 14 to 16-inch marlin lures. And get a Ross report or subscribe to Hilton's to stay abreast of where these color changes are, because that's really what's the important ingredient for finding where the fish are off the Gulf. So find that color changes in the weed lines, and chances are you're going to find some fish.
All right, let's go
moving
inshore.
Inshore.
Go ahead.
Speckled trout. Late June is normally not a great time to catch speckled trout in this area because the water's so hot, but this year it has been very good, and it is good. So there's some big trout being caught. It's late in the season, like I mentioned. These big females are still full of roe, and they usually roe out in May sometime. You're going to find these fish on the grass flats and on the sand edges. The bite passes, but it's getting better back in the back parts of the bay where they usually are. Most productive is live baiting with pogies, croakers, or pilchards. Free line these baits or fish them under a float. Artificials use a Miradyne, a Bass Assassin float, and fish that fluke either weedless or on a light jig head. And then also, like Jimbo was mentioned, the tarpon fishing is good right now throughout the Panhandle. Apalachicola, you're going to find them in West and Indian passes around the pogie schools. Further west, along the rest of the Panhandle, the fish are going to be along the beach, migrating to the west. And right now, they're in really big, slow-moving schools. So when you find that school, get west of them, shut the boat down, set up a good drift to intersect the fish, and then pitch live herrings, pilchards, speedos, or cigar minnows to them. I like to use a 60 to 80-pound fluorocarbon for a bite tippet, heavy spinning tackle, and then the average size fish is 60 to 80 pounds, with some fish being bigger than that, although we did catch one this week that was about 45 to 50 pounds. But the tarpon fishing, they're here, and that's a great thing to do.
All right, thanks, Pat. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the blue water outrigger hotspots from the Panhandle region. Captain Pat says inshore trout bite as good as it gets right now. Target the grass and sand flats on the points and the bayou mouths. And then offshore, amberjacks are loaded up on the near shore wrecks. Use live baits or jigs for this catch and release fishery. Now we have my good buddy George Pino from the FWC. Now, George, you know, summertime is a really high-trafficked time for boating. Tell me what we want to talk about this week.
Listen, Rick, you've been on the boat and you've been on the water all your life, and we see the tragedies that happen every year. Unfortunately, we have people that die as a result of carelessness and recklessness. We want to preach boating safety. We want to make sure that people are wearing their life vests. Last year, 79% of every person that died in state waterways was not wearing their life vests. And that's something that we want to change. We want to change the attitude. We want people to understand that they can't leave home without common sense. If you leave home without common sense, the likelihood is that you're going to get involved in some sort of situation that's going to be a travesty for your family and for you and for us having to go deal with it. So make sure you have all your boating safety equipment on board your vessel. Make sure you pay attention. Be in control of your vessel at all times. Don't operate a vessel while intoxicated. We're going to have officers that are going to be out there looking specifically for those people that like to drink and operate the vessel. Don't do that. It's just going to cause havoc for other boaters, for yourself and your family.
You know, George, one of the things that comes to mind when you said use common sense, what would be the things? I'm thinking life jackets, if we have suspenders, and nobody likes to wear the big orange ones, the ones around the
waist.
The waist.
Sure.
And what else would we think about? Kill switch, maybe?
Of course, the kill switch. But there's 5 essential things that you should have on your vessel, and you should do a vessel inspection before you head out. The first one, of course, is a life vest for everyone on board. It's got to be readily accessible. It's got to be that you can grab and put it on in the case of an emergency. A throwable device, something that you can throw to someone in the event that they fall overboard. Flares, a fire extinguisher, and a whistle. If you have those 5 things, and you do everything else right, and you don't drink and operate a vessel while intoxicated, you should be okay this summer.
George, you're always teaching me something new from the FWC. We appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
Brie, what else do we appreciate?
Well, we appreciate George, of course. But please don't go away. When we drift back, we're going off the deep end with Dave, talking with our special swordfish guru, and hearing from the Northwest region, only on the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Chevy. Find new roads. Best parts, best prices. Bennett Auto Supply. Yeti Coolers. Wildly stronger. Keep ice longer. CCA Florida, the voice of recreational anglers for over 25 years. Contender Boats. Performance through innovation. Humminbird. Simply, clearly, better. And King Sailfish Mounts. www.kingsailfish.com.
when you start strong. 2014 North American Truck of the Year strong, you keep going. Introducing the new Chevy Silverado Heavy Duty with an available 765 pound-feet of torque, best-in-class conventional towing, and over 100 billion miles of real-world Duramax and Allison experience on the road. Strong just got stronger. Chevrolet, find new roads.
Yamaha's next-generation V6 four-strokes are changing the game.
Mid-range power was awesome.
Fuel, the burn, it's unbelievable.
Couldn't believe the speed and the fuel economy is pretty impressive.
I mean, I couldn't believe the power. It was like it was more like doing a quarter mile on a drag strip.
And them things are like, it's a whole nother game. So I made the switch.
Experience the difference for yourself during the Yamaha Discover V6 Offshore Demo Tour. See why we call it the Game Changer.
It's been said that a bad day of fishing is better than a good day at the office. But down here in the Florida Keys, we have to disagree. Because with over 200 of the world's best charter boat captains and guides, there's no such thing as a bad day of fishing. The Florida Keys and Key West.
Continuing the revolution. Faster, drier, even better built. Designed around Yamaha's latest technology outboards. Still built by the same craftsmen and anglers who launched the Bay Boat Revolution. Whether chasing world records, or time on the water with the family, or anything in between, there's a new Pathfinder model for you. Pathfinder, #1 for a reason, still.
And now it's time to go over the news and notes from FWC. America boating courses are going on across the state. June 28th, we have a kids fishing clinic in Cape Canaveral. July 19th, there's another kids fishing clinic in Palm Coast. And September 6th is Saltwater License-Free Fishing Day. You can get more information at myfwc.com. Now it's time to go off the deep end.
You know, welcome back to the Hummingbird Off the Deep End workbench. Dave, we've got the guru.
He's the man. He's the master. You know, RJ makes,
that's heavy.
RJ makes his living off the swordfish, so we're glad to have him here. You know, swordfishing, you can catch them all over the state of Florida, but down here on the southeast coast, you know, that's where the main concentration is. It's also, although, one of the hardest places there is. And RJ, you know, what makes it so difficult to fish in that area mainly?
You know, I'm going to tell you, after years of doing it now, the hardest thing is dealing with the Gulf Stream current. When you have an average tide of about 3.5 knots, it makes it very technical. And you got to remember, at any time, you've got 3/4 of a mile of line out. So when you're trying to hook a fish that far from you with the current, there's a lot that can go wrong.
You're fishing on the bottom in 1,600 feet of water. That's what you said was a good number.
You know, if I had to pick a number worldwide, not just here, but worldwide, let's say 1,700.
1,700
So let's choose 1,700 because they're caught worldwide.
And you got a 3-knot current.
Yep.
And you got how much weight down there to get all that line?
On average 12 pounds, let's say 12.
So that makes it a fairly difficult proposition to hook a fish.
It's very difficult. It's very difficult.
Now, and there are other places where it's a lot easier.
You know, fishing in Texas, fishing in Louisiana, Panhandle, that area, you heard the fishing's good up there. It's very good worldwide, like I said. But what you notice in those places is that the current's very light, which makes it much easier to fish. You don't have the line out. You don't have the dynamics that we have with the Gulf Stream. So here in Florida, if you can master Florida sword fishing, you can go anywhere.
You can do it anywhere.
You'll have success.
I found that out at our last Marlin University, how much I didn't know about it.
That's right.
What's your favorite bait to use when you're out here?
I'm going to go 2 baits. I'm going to say ladyfish, and then secondly a bonita belly.
Yeah.
I got a new business. I'm going to go into catching ladyfish for bait, sell them to RJ. We'll make a fortune.
That's right. We sell a lot.
You know, you hear a lot about sword fishing. You know, you go on the moon, you don't go on the moon. Is there anything to that, this whole moon thing?
Very simply put, after years of doing it, the bigger the moon, the less bites, the bigger fish you're going to catch. Smaller the moon, more bites, smaller fish.
I got you.
Keep it there. Simple.
Okay.
Less bites, bigger fish, big moon.
I got you. And are you guys using? I know that's awful deep down there and a lot of weight. Are you using electric reels mostly, or are you hand cranking?
I'm going to tell you that in other places you can hand crank easily. Here in South Florida, we've caught a couple of records and some slams and things where we've had to manually crank. It can be done. If it has to be done, it can be done. Hopefully the tide's working in your favor at times. If it's 3 or under, where there's a thin layer of tide, it can be done. But again, South Florida, the dynamics of the current make it difficult.
Show them this fish. This is your daughter here, right?
This is 3 months ago. That's one of the biggest swordfish that we've caught right now. It's about 650 pounds.
That is a monster.
And
it dwarfs her. Look how big the bill is where her hand is.
It's insane, isn't it? Yeah.
And those kind of fish are swimming right out here. And anybody with a center console boat even can go out here. You know, how far off is 1,600 feet down where you live?
Really, if you went straight out of, let's say, Hillsborough Inlet, you're talking about 14 to 16 miles.
Wow. That's nothing. And those are some big old fish out there.
Big fish. And there's another thing you got to think about, really. Daytime sword fishing here, down here in Florida, the guys in the Keys were really the modern day pioneers of daytime sword fishing. But what we're noticing, the guys are getting better. Let's say we've been sword fishing 8 years in the daytime, and over the last 3 years, we've caught 5 fish over 500. Prior to that, we hadn't really caught one to that. So the techniques are getting better. The dynamics of learning, the driving, and a well-seasoned crew is huge in the whole game. So.
Yeah, I noticed just being able to see the bite in that really deep water was something.
95% of the people on the boat on a charter will never see the bite of a swordfish.
Hey, thank you so much for coming. And,
thank you.
Bree, we got to keep moving. Thank you so much, RJ.
Thanks, RJ.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yes, we do. Okay, let's get excited, Northwestern Floridians, because the Hagster has all the info on where those sorties are, and they may not be as far out as you think. Go ahead, Captain.
They're pretty far out there. On my coast, you got to travel to get out to where our fish are. 1,200 to 1,600 feet of water. You're going to be making a long run. Most of the guys that are going out there to do it are doing overnight trips. There's usually a few fish caught during the Old Salt tournament out there. They're just starting the day drop up here in my area. But you're going to have to get pretty far out there. All the stuff works on the other coast. All the other guys you're talking about works the same over here. But the big thing over here is you're going to have to make a super long run. You're talking almost 180, 200 miles to get to that kind of water in some parts of my region. But all that other stuff that the guys are talking about all works on my coast. Just get out there deep. Also offshore, Captain Harry Connor of Hook'em Harry Charters out of St. Pete reports that the tuna bite has been really good. I'm talking about blackfin tuna, and as little as 62 feet of water. You want to get out there, look for frigate birds, scattered sargassum weed, any kind of bait that's out there. Slow trolling live baits do that, or getting in an area over a wreck and chumming heavily. We'll bring these fish up to the back of the boat and bring them in the casting range. Also, if you want to get out there at first light, get out there on the deck, go look for some shrimp boats, get behind them as they're docking their bite catch out there right now. You can get behind their boats. If they're moving, you want to get behind the boat and cast this transom or low troll or fast troll tremblers right behind the back of the boat. Right now, our fish are averaging anywhere from 15 to 20 pounds, and there's some good blackfin tuna out there. Moving on inshore, Captain Pat McGriff, one more Dash Charters out of Keaton Beach, reports a good bite right now. He's saying use brightly colored lures or 10 jigs, and then it makes a lot of noise. So either put a popping cork on them or a Cajun Thunder. That'll help the fish zero in on your bait right now. Fish are in anywhere from 4 to 7 feet of water over a broken bottom, and they're averaging anywhere from 16 to 18 inches. And also inshore, Captain C.A. Richardson of Flat Cost Charters reports that the tarpon fishing off of St. Pete right now has been really consistent in the early morning hours before that boat traffic gets too heavy, and you want to look for rolling fish. Threadfin herring and crabs are your bait of choice. With the water right now, it's so clear up there right now, Cindy's have to really drop down on those leader side. So use that BMC hook if you're using live bait so you can prevent getting cut off. So you're going to really have to drop down on that leader side. It's making a difference down here in Boca Grande, too.
All right, thanks for the report from the Yeti Northwest region. Jeff, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Drummond Community Bank hotspots from the Northwest region. Inshore, redfish on the top of the tide. Use cut pinfish or ladyfish for bait, and then offshore, snapper on the high relief structures in 40 to 70 feet of water. Use tailed hook shrimp on a 1/4 ounce hookup jig, Brie.
That's right. And don't forget, you can meet Rick at the Tampa Big Buck Expo on July 12th, which, gosh, I can't believe we're almost in July.
Almost.
Almost. All right, coming up on the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report, we have hot off the press reports from the Keys and Southwest regions you won't want to miss. Plus, we're giving away tickets to the Daytona 400. Stick around. That's going to be so fun.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. Blue Water Outriggers, everything for your outdoor adventures. Guy Harvey Clothing by AFTCO. Croquis, made in the USA. Drummond Community Bank. Costa, see what's out there. And Casa Vieja Lodge, 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala.
What is CCA? CCA has been representing recreational fishermen for over 25 years, and when your rights to fish are threatened, the CCA is there to make sure government regulators are making sound decisions. I'm a life member of CCA, and when fishery decisions are being made, the CCA in the room is fighting for our recreational rights. We need to give our kids the same opportunities to fish as we did. Do what I did. Go to ccaflorida.org and join for only $25 so you can protect your recreational angling rights.
Hi, I'm Harold Bennett. My dad started Bennett Auto Supply over 57 years ago. Things have changed since then. We've grown to 33 stores and opened a 93,000 square foot distribution center. But one thing has stayed the same, our focus on the customer. That's why we have the most knowledgeable parts specialists in the business, and we only offer quality auto parts at the guaranteed lowest prices. The next time you need anything for your vehicle, think Bennett Auto Supply. Best parts, best prices, Bennett Auto Supply.
When you start strong, 2014 North American Truck of the Year strong, you keep going. Introducing the new Chevy Silverado Heavy Duty with an available 765 pound-feet of torque, best-in-class conventional towing, and over 100 billion miles of real-world Duramax and Allison experience on the road. Strong just got stronger. Chevrolet, find new roads.
Hey everyone, don't forget about our contest sponsored by Bennett Auto Supply. Bennett's Catch a Big One will give 4 lucky winners a chance to go on a fishing charter with captains from our show and take home a prize pack with all kinds of Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report gear. Remember, you can only enter through our website at ChevyFloridaInsiderFishingReport.com. But right now, we're going to chat with our favorite Margaritaville captain from the Keys, Captain Randy Tao, who also knows all the ins and outs when it comes to his favorite kind of fish to fish.
That's it.
Hey, kingfish fans, you know, sword fishing in the Keys is a passion that I have. I've sword fished ever since I was a little kid up in Fort Lauderdale, and it never changed once I moved to the Keys. Now, a lot of my fishing was at night, and now, because of the daytime popularity, guys want to drop during the day. They want to see the fish jump. They want to see the bite. And your daytime fishing has really changed the way you catch swordfish. And we've had a great bite for the last couple of weeks, probably month. It's been very good. I always say we have a swordfish season here from about June till October. So if you want to catch one, certainly now's the time to come down to the Keys. And they're catching them every day. Somebody's out there, you're dolphin fishing, you're offshore, get slow during the day, you're going to make a drop, and guys do it every day, and they're catching them during the day. Now, your daytime fish are going to average a little bigger. That's what's nice about it. You know, it might be 100 to 200-pound fish, and the nighttime bite has gotten a little more difficult to catch one, but they're on the smaller side. You're going to fish the same areas, that 1,400 to 1,700 feet of water, but you're going to do it with one rod during the day with a heavy lead on the bottom with a strip bait, and you use a strip bait because it stays on. Once a fish hits it, he can hit it several times, and you don't lose your bait, and sooner or later, hopefully you hook them, where at night you're going to have 5 to 6 rods out. You're going to be drifting, and they're going to stagger between 100 and 400 feet, and it might be a squid or it might be a live blue runner, depending on what you like to put out there. And it's a whole different way of going about catching one. certainly easier from 100 feet winding one up than 1,500, I can tell you. And I'm sure, Rick, you can vouch for that.
You're right about that, Randy. Hey, tell me about the blackfin tunas, bud.
You know, this time of year, a lot of guys are going offshore dolphin fishing, and it's kind of a standard thing. You go by the hump, you look for the tunas, and our tuna fishing hasn't been great this year. It's been a little slow. June's usually a good month, but there's tunas on the Islamorada, the 409, and the West Hump. Now, these areas are in about 600 feet, and it comes up a couple of hundred feet off the bottom, and it's a place where these tunas will congregate, especially during the morning, the early morning, the low light time of day. And if you've got a dark feather or small dark lures that you can fish way back behind your boat, you're going to catch some nice tunas. If you want to try to target the bigger ones, you want to use some live bait, bring some pilchards, and see if you can't chum them to the surface and catch some of the bigger tunas. Now, they haven't been real big, but I'll tell you what, I got a picture of Daryl Gwynn I was fishing with this past weekend, and his dad Jerry and his friend Mike Alfano, and we caught a blackfin tuna 20 miles offshore in a pontoon boat, and that just shows you that if there's a will, there's a way. The seas were beautiful, and we got the job done.
Man, Daryl looks great. All right, let's go ahead and go inshore, Buff.
You know, the permit fishing this time of year, we get a lot of permit during the day. It's hot, it's calm. A lot of the grass that comes in from offshore, it kind of congregates around the bridges and around the shorelines of the Keys. And on an outgoing tide, for example, you might find these permit-popping crabs in the weeds around some of the bridges. Channel 2, Channel 5, Long Key, 7 Mile, Bahia Honda. These are all great areas where these permit are going to show up. And also on some of these oceanside flats, you're going to find these permit more during the middle of the day. You want to have some visibility where you can see the fish in the water swimming, but this is a great time of year to catch a permit. And also, out on the Gulf, some of these Gulf wrecks right now will hold a lot of permit. A live half-dollar size crab is going to work great for you on a spinning rod. Just cast it in front of them, and usually as soon as it starts to wiggle, they're going to be on it. The mangrove snappers right now, just like on the reef, we have them in the backcountry. Most of the channels in the backcountry, along with some of the deep potholes, are going to hold some nice mangrove snappers. Depending on how you want to target them, you can target them on artificial, you can use bait. If you put a chum bag out, you're probably going to attract a lot of the smaller mangrove snappers. So if you want to target some of the bigger ones, use a pinfish, use a pilchard, and throw it away from all the small ones that you might have around the boat. And there's no shortage of mangrove snappers right now, and it seems like a big bait is going to catch you a big snapper.
All right, some great advice from the Florida Keys region. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the La Jolla hotspots from the Florida Keys. Inshore, permit. Fish the high parts of either tide, throw a half-dollar size crab in front of the fish, and keep your rod up so that he can find the crab, Brie. And then offshore, blackfin tunas. Fish the offshore humps till mid-morning. Troll small, dark lures or feathers 100 to 200 feet behind the boat as you figure out a figure 8 kind of routine as you're trolling.
Okay, well, you know what time it is. It's time to talk about the Florida Keys and the tournaments in the Florida Keys. The University of Miami Sports Hall of Fame Celebrity Dolphin Tournament, set for this weekend in Islamorada, invites participants to fish with former Hurricane All-Stars, including NFL Hall of Famer and football great Michael Irvin. The Dolphin and Blackfin Tuna Fun Fishing Tournament, also scheduled for this weekend in Marathon, offers cash prizes for adult anglers who catch the contest's 3 heaviest dolphin. The Del Brown Permit Tournament, set for July 13th through the 16th in Key West, honors the late angler who caught and released more than 500 permit on fly off the Florida Keys during his lifetime. The Drambuie Key West Marlin Tournament, scheduled for July 16th through the 19th, offers up $50,000 in guaranteed cash prizes with $25,000 to the winning team. The contest is held in conjunction with Key West's annual Hemingway Days Festival. And now it's about that time for Andy Newman to tell us more tournaments in the Keys. Oh my gosh. Go ahead, Andy.
Oh my gosh, Brie. The Islamorada Dolphin Tournament, set for July 11th to the 13th, is famous for its fun and flexibility. This is a boat tournament, and it allows an unlimited number of anglers per vessel. At least $10,000 in cash to be awarded to that top boat team. Also, there's prizes for second and third place teams, and the angler catching the heaviest dolphin. Now, courtesy of Yamaha and Caribbean Boat Sales, that angler gets an extra $1,000 if that largest dolphin is caught from an outboard-powered boat. More details, Alamorada Charterboat Association.com, and of course, Brie and Rick, FLAKeys.com is your source for more information on the fabulous Florida Keys.
Thanks, Andy.
Thanks, Andy. Okay, moving on to the Southwest region. Swordfish isn't all that common, but our captain, Ronnie Houston, has a lot more to offer. Hi, Ron.
How you doing, Bree? You know, like I said, we have a variety of fish to fish for over here. Right now, you want to concentrate on the offshore side with the Spanish mackerels. Concentrate on fishing from the lighthouse, on the point of Sanibel, the Wiggins Pass, especially where that current rips on the corner on either tide, as long as there's good tidal flow, both incoming and outgoing between that turn there and the pier. Then you can also fish from the swim buoys out to 8 miles, anywhere along some head pins, wrecks, large pods of bait, and diving birds. You know, a variety of baits such as guide lures, silver spoons, whiter chartreuse bucktails can catch these fish, but also you can catch some small baits along the beach that can be caught along the beach. And strongly suggest all the baits I've mentioned, small trace of wire. Right now, the Spanish mackerels are averaging anywhere from 1.5 to 4 pounds. As we talk about a little further out, a little further to the south, the cobias. You know, the weather's been great for the last couple weeks. We've had plenty of moderate days. You want to concentrate on fishing most wrecks from Indian Key to Gordon's Pass. Now, you can either set up or freeline in those areas, or you can drop large live baits on the bottom. I strongly suggest putting out a chum bag to attract fish that might be sitting on the outskirts of the structure. Baits such as live pinfish, grunts, herring, also some artificial such as 4 to 6 inch swim baits, some chugging lures, artificial eels. But you know what, truthfully, once the fish are spotted, they will eat just about anything. And I strongly suggest when you're fishing these wrecks, always have an anchor ball ready and have it be able to disattach it to freeline away. And you want to do that to get the fish away from the structure and then come back and set up on where you're fishing. You know, on the inshore side, common species right now that's been a pretty good bite are the black drums. Now, you want to concentrate on fishing for these fish early morning incoming or the late afternoon outgoing before dark. You want to concentrate on most middle bays and islands and shorelines from Santina's Flat to Picnic Key. Now, one of the main keys here you want to look for is shorelines with plenty of solid oysters. Now, you can see most of these fish on the lower stages cruising or tailing. Now, you want to be stealthy and present small cut pieces of shrimp in front of these fish. Once you put that bait in front of these fish, let them smell it and go to the bait on their own. Don't try to jig the bait towards them or anything. You'll spook these fish. Or if you see a variety of fish cruising or tailing the shorelines, a simple knocker rig, fish with shrimp in these areas that they're cruising in. Also, some baits that have been working too are sand fleas, and they have been working, and plenty of these sand fleas can be sifted along most beaches along our coastline. Now, one thing to mention is the snook. This bite still remains to be good all along the beaches of the outer coast from Marco Island, actually all the way at Stump Pass, but really Marco up to Wiggins, according to Joey Benko of Bustin' Loose Charters. But they can be tough to catch because they're zoned in on the smaller baits and pods. But myself, I've been fishing down south. The Everglades backcountry right now from Houston Bay to Dad's Bay have been producing good numbers of snook. Now, another new bait I've been trying, especially with the rain in Atlantic waters, are the Bass Assassin new 5-inch shad in a new color, rainbow shad, and in the new dye dapper, Mississippi Hippie. Both colors match the Atlantic water very well and have been working. Also, black and gold, red and white chugging lures, 4-inch, also gold spoons. You want to concentrate in these areas, fishing the points with current, creek mouths, and shorelines with moving water. Now, I can tell you one thing. When you get into the backcountry, the windier shorelines have been producing best. Now, I've got a picture here in the last couple days fishing the outer Gulf Coast before I went into the backcountry. There's another slot-sized snook by Mr. Bill Armstrong fishing the outer Gulf Coast. Snook bites have been coming back. I see numbers coming back. Not the way they should be, but you can get out and work these patterns and catch plenty of snook all through the region.
All right, great report from the CCA Southwest region, Ronnie. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Florida Outdoor Experience hotspots in the Southwest region. Inshore, Tarpon, Sanibel to Charlotte Harbor, late night incoming, strictly fishing bridges. And then offshore, Mangrove Snapper, Stump Pass to Sanibel, 5 to 12 miles out. Along the wrecks, ledges, and chumming can be the key, Brie.
Yes, it can. But after this short break, we have the coveting new products segment with the one and only Dave Farrell And we'll be hearing from our very own Northeast Region Captain with all the sortie info you're going to need right here on the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report.
Stay heavy.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by the Florida Keys and Key West. Come as you are. Hookup Lures, premium lures for serious anglers. FWC, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. Guy Harvey, artist, explorer, marine scientist, conservationist, diver, and fisherman. La Jolla Resort, a place for family and fishermen. Maverick Boat Company, makers of premium boat brands, Maverick, Hughes, and Pathfinder. Navionics, we start where the road ends.
It's 200 streamlined horsepower of Yamaha forward thinking. The all-new F200 inline 4-stroke. Whether you're an offshore angler, pontoon cruiser, bay boater, or walleye hunter, the responsive and fuel-efficient F200 combines amazing power and versatility in one incredibly compact and lightweight package. The all-new F200. Legendary Yamaha reliability and the freedom of forward thinking.
You know there's more to it than luck. There's fishing the right bait, the water temperature, the wind, the season, and then there's the boat. We'll put it simply, the boat matters. To own a Contender is to own the best sport fishing boat on the market, period. Contender offers the most comprehensive model range with bigger, faster, and more fuel-efficient boats than the competition. There's only one choice for serious anglers. Contender Boats. Performance through innovation.
Oh, there he is. Hey, you! Yeah. Fat boy, you can't get none of this. Look at me. I got moves. I go left, I go right, I go left again. Watch this, watch it. Oh, there it is. Psych! I'm so erratic, I don't even know where I'm going. Come on, Chubby Cheeks. Come on, Bucket Mouth. Come get some of this. I can do this all day long. Look at me, watch this. Come on. Your mama's so fat that she can't get out the fish net. Ow! All right, I'll give you that one.
Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report. We're over here at the Jägermeister Workbench, Dave, where we, every week, talk about
We got a lot
products.
of stuff tonight, so we got to go.
Okay, let's go.
First off, we got this new Plano guide series. This is a 3700. It's called a Hydro Flow. And it's called a Hydro Flow because of this base on the bottom. If you notice, it's got this long, it's got a tall base on the bottom so that, you put this in the back, on the bottom of a little skiff like mine where there's water always in the bottom of it. This keeps your tackle up off the deck and out of the water. It holds 6 stowaway boxes, 5 inside, and then one up on top with the little the bungee clasp.
Bungee cord?
Yep, and it's got sunglass holders on the side, and these things are they hold a lot of stuff, but they also double as little handles, so you can you hold it underneath there. And you got a lot of room to put your stuff on the outside, and if you want to put your lunch or stuff out here, big pockets in the front for a lot of your other junk, but what I really like about it is the number of boxes it holds. I put everything in boxes, and
you can never have enough.
You can never have enough boxes.
That's it.
All right, this is a spooled up line winder. This came, RJ brought this in from his shop.
Sweet.
As heavy as that thing is, once you put it in a rod holder and start winding, it makes your job a lot easier. When you're filling these 50s, 80s, and 130s, it takes 2 people usually, and it takes a while. This thing is made out of really nice aluminum. This looks like bar stock aluminum. It's got a nice tensioner on here. You can keep, make it to whatever tension you want, and it fits on the butt of your rod, on the ferrule of your big convertible rods.
So you would typically stick this on the boat. This is why you're filling them on the boat.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Put this on the rod holder, or you could have a rod holder in your shop. A lot of guys will put a rod holder in their shop.
I got it.
And that's from Spooled Up. Who makes that? And they also make They also make one that you can put on a drill. If you don't want to have all this gear on here, you can get just a regular old spool line and use one of these to spool up or to crank up a big weight from down below. Put this on a chuck on a drill, and it spins around. You want to put the rubber part on your thing.
Rubber part.
Yeah, and then spins it up, and it turns any reel into an electric drill real quick.
Oh, nice.
Right.
So, Dave, let me ask you, could this be something you'd use when you were sword fishing?
Sure,
take
you could.
A drill and it would help wind it up?
If you're dropping and you're trying to set world records, you'd make your drop, you fish, you don't get a bite, you don't want to wind all that stuff in.
Right.
Crank that right there on there, and you're going. These are some really cool new skirts from Black Bart's making these. He's making them for his lures. And what makes these so so cool,
so attractive?
Yeah, they're so attractive, is they're thin. They're very thin, and that does a couple things. One, it makes it a lot easier for the fellas who are spooling, who are skirting their lures.
They're beautiful.
You can, it's thinner material, so they can put the skirts on a lot easier. Also, the thinner skirts make a great hookup. You know, the thinner your skirt is, the better you're going to have a hookup ratio. With that, it gets all that stuff out of the way. So Black Bart's making those things, and he's also selling those over at his shop as well. Now this is a micro anchor. Now this goes along with this big fiberglass pole, and it's made by the same people who make power poles. And what this does, well, I don't know if I can stick it in there and here, but what it does is it goes all the way down through there, and there's a series of motors in here, and when you push up or down, this pole goes 9 feet up and down. And this is what's so great about this is it only weighs 11 pounds.
Right.
It's perfect for a kayak or a little skiff, again, like the little skiff that I have. This makes a perfect alternative to having something big hanging off your boat. So that's a really cool thing. It's called the micro anchor.
It comes with remotes.
Comes with remotes, and it also comes with a remote. You can have it hanging on your thing, and it also comes with one you can put on your dash.
I like it.
You know, you can put a little deal on your dash and do it as well.
Cool.
Also, we got some really cool squids from Moldcraft. You know, Moldcraft's been making the squids forever, but now they're starting to catch up with the other fellas and starting to put a bunch of patterns and some neon colors. They're great for dredges, for making daisy chains. I mean, everybody in the world pulls a squid daisy chain when they're fishing for sailfish and whatnot. So,
speaking of a daisy chain, our Daisy is sitting over there waiting to take us to another region.
Yep, she is.
I'm pretty sure you just called me a daisy chain, so that's nice.
You're a daisy if you do.
All right, standing by, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, is our Northeast Region Captain, Russell Theron, who has a can-do attitude when it comes to getting that swordfish bite.
That's right. I personally don't get a chance to do much sword fishing. I certainly would love to go sometime, Brie. Traditionally, most of our swordfish are caught between 1,300 and 1,500 foot of water, way offshore. You know, I've been told that our swordfish here in Northeast Florida feed on the royal shrimp. A great advantage to locating the shrimp is to locate the swordfish, is to locate the shrimp trawlers. Once you've located the shrimp trawlers for the royal red shrimp, you're going to locate the swordfish. 98% of the swordfish bite comes at night. And the use of night lights here are very important when it comes to sword fishing. And the records show that the nights of the new moon really have gotten the best bite. Typical size swordfish here run less than 80 pounds, but some can top 300. Now, staying offshore, just about everyone I've talked to this week that has run offshore has come back with a nice cobia. And they're caught over the artificial reefs and wrecks in 65 to 120 foot of water. Some of the cobia have just simply, followed some of the caught fish to the surface, and others are being caught down over the structure. Use live bait or use a hookup bucktail jig to deep jig. Don't be surprised if you don't get hooked up to an amberjack also. Typical size cobia offshore are running anywhere from 25 to 60 pounds. Moving inshore, Rick, we want to talk about redfish. Man, the dog days of summer are here now. But the redfish bite early in the mornings has surpassed everyone's expectations. Captain Tommy Derringer with Inshore Adventures in St. Augustine has been leading the way to the redfish hunt, working Rapala skidder walk top water plugs at first light, and then he's switching over to soft plastics. Or maybe he's using a cut quarter of a fresh blue crab to get the bite. Typical size of the redfish are running anywhere from 3 to 7 pounds. Now, I've got a great redfish photo here, going from left to right, of Clay, Chris, and Taylor Lunsford. The two boys each caught their biggest redfish with Captain Tommy in this photo. Papa Chris Lunsford is holding the catch of the day. Great job, Chris. What a nice redfish. The summer flounder are still 2 weeks in a row. They're still very consistent. And you can catch and fish for these flounders throughout the inshore rivers and creeks, and, of course, along the ICW. Locate the flounder in 3 to 12 foot of water, and all you need is light tackle, a Carolina rig with a 3/8 egg sinker on a swivel, and about 15 inches of 20-pound test line tied to a number 2 Kale hook. The best use or best baits to use for the summer flounder are going to be Fringling mullet and mud minnows. Typical size of the flounder are running anywhere from 1 to 3 pounds.
Hey, Russell, go ahead. I'm sorry. Russell.
Yeah.
I got a question for you, buddy. On those summer flounder, when you catch a flounder, how do you like to prepare it? I know that you love eating flounder. Tell me.
You know, one of the ways, Rick, that a lot of people here in our region typically prepare flounder is they love to be able to stuff it with crab meat and cheese and broil it, you know, or you can bake it on the grill. But stuffed flounder really takes the top of the list.
All right, great report from the CCA Northeast region. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at Captain Russell's hotspots. Captain Russell says, inshore, target redfish along the ICW this weekend at sunrise or sunset. Use topwater plugs, soft plastics, or a quarter of a blue crab. And then offshore, look for the groupers in 50 to 180 feet of water on the artificial reefs and wrecks. Live baits will work the best, Brie.
Stuffed with crab and cheese. Oh gosh. Okay, I know y'all can't be bored when we're talking about swords, so strap on those fighting belts and get ready for more reports from the Central West and East regions when we return on the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Chevy. Find new roads. Alukai, fit by nature, crafted by hand. Best parts, best prices. Bennett Auto Supply. The Florida Keys and Key West. Come as you are. Rapala. Catch the latest at rapala.com. Startron. Cures and prevents ethanol fuel problems. And Yamaha. Reliability starts here.
When you start strong, 2014 North American Truck of the Year strong, you keep going. Introducing the new Chevy Silverado Heavy Duty with an available 765 pound-feet of torque, best-in-class conventional towing, and over 100 billion miles of real-world Duramax and Allison experience on the road. Strong just got stronger. Chevrolet, find new roads.
Continuing the revolution. Faster, drier, even better built. Designed around Yamaha's latest technology outboards. Still built by the same craftsmen and anglers who launched the Bay Boat Revolution. Whether chasing world records, or time on the water with the family, or anything in between, there's a new Pathfinder model for you. Pathfinder, #1 for a reason, still.
I'm Captain Rick Murphy, and I'm a life member of CCA. Why am I so involved with CCA, you ask? Because I want our fisheries to be in better shape for my kids and their kids. CCA is working to ensure the future of recreational fisheries and the rights of recreational anglers. The future of fishing starts today with you. How do you want to leave things with your kids? If you're like me, you'll want to make the right choice and go to joinccaflorida.com right now. As you know, I just got a new 2015 Chevy Suburban.
Yes, it's beautiful.
And it's got a bunch of new features that I really love, so I want you to check this out, Brie.
Okay.
We decided to go down to a local Chevy dealer and take a look at the new 2015 Suburban. Now, Suburbans are no stranger to my plethora of vehicles that I've owned over the last few years. I've always owned a Suburban since 1990. But the new 2015 redesign has really got my attention. Now let's talk a little bit about why I like this vehicle so much better than past vehicles. The fold-down flat seating certainly is a huge part of what makes this vehicle really appealing to me. Now whether we go on a sportsman's adventure shoot or we actually go fish a redfish tournament, I can take all my boxes as well as my rods and put them in the storage, and they're all enclosed. Now, the other thing that comes to mind and why I like a Suburban and always have is because it's the only vehicle that you can take a 9-foot, one-piece fly rod and not have to break it down or have your tips hanging out of the window. Now, this fold flat seating really has a lot of great attributes. I can put my 4-way for my lug wrench so that I have my lug wrench for the trailer tire if I have a flat tire, as well as if I have to change a tire on the side of the road with this vehicle, I have a lug wrench that'll do that. I got all my tackle boxes preloaded, ready to go. My rod's up here, but more importantly, the one thing that I use every day when I'm out fishing is certainly a battery charger. We gotta charge the battery. So how do I access that? I can access the rear seat and get to the battery charger, which I use every day. To make sure you understand that because of the battery charger is something that we have to plug in every day, with the cargo area and putting this forward, I can grab my extension cord, my battery charger, go plug it in, and now I'm getting ready for my next day of fishing. If you'd like to know more about the 2015 Suburban, just go down to your local Chevy dealer and tell them Rick sent you. What do you think? Tell them Rick sent you.
Oh, tell Rick Murphy special. Here we
That's
go.
It. Rick Murphy special at Chevy dealers.
Okay. Our captain, Jeff Page from the Central West region, has all the tricks when it comes to catching swordfish. So if I were you, I would listen very closely.
Yes, we do. We have a pretty good swordfish bite here in the Starbright Central West region, you guys. The trick is when and where. First, the when. My boys Will and Nick Frolick of Double Nickel Charters are telling me to plan your sword fishing trips within 10 days of the full moon, and also during the day once you get out there in that region, while you're trolling around for other pelagics, pay attention to your bottom machine for structure, bait, and temperature breaks. Then get set up on that stuff at night, and 1,100 to 1,200 feet seems to be the magic depth number. You're going to want to set rigged squid on circle hooks at a variety of depths from just below the surface down to 400 feet. And one more tip from the Double Nickel boys. Let's say during the day or even in the night you mark bait down around 350 feet. You want to have maybe 2 lines down at that depth, or maybe a little above it, like at 320.
All right, Jeffrey, what else you got for me offshore?
Offshore, blackfin tuna. Captain Jason Sherrill, the Bad Habit Charter, says the blackfin tunas are going strong in 80 to 200 feet of water. And the key, again, is paying attention to bait schools on your machine and hard bottom. You're going to want to troll lipped plugs, tuna feathers, or cedar plugs at 7 to 9 knots, or have a wire rod while you're grouper fishing. The tunas are averaging 8 to 15 pounds, and I've got a photo tonight Mike Bowser with a really nice blackfin tuna that he caught aboard the Bad Habit Charters. Rolling inshore, snook fishing, lots of catch and release snooks. They're in the inlets, they're on the passes, and in the afternoon outgoing tide seem to be the best time to catch them. Live pilchards, free-line pinfish, grunts if you can get them, are the bait of choice. But you can manage a few on the Saltwater Assassin Violet Moon 4-inch sea shad on a 1/4-ounce hookup jig head. At night, Captain Dave Parmalu, a.k.a. the Mad Snooker, has been doing real well around the bridges and dock lights in the Venice-Englewood area. Live pinfish and mullet are his bait of choice. You better have some stout tackle, says the Mad Snooker. And I got a photo tonight of the madman himself with a chunk snook he got the other night.
What else you got for me inshore, bub?
Redfish are starting to get right, especially on the higher stages of the tides when they can comfortably get up on top of the bars and up under the mangroves. Look for nice upper slot redfish in the Lemon Bay, Gasparilla Sound area to the south and the Terracea Bay, Emerson Point area to the north. Saltwater Assassin 5-inch golden brim jerkbait rigged on an 1/8-ounce chartreuse jig head seems to be the best bet because the water's a little stained right now due to all the afternoon thunderstorms we've been having. Or live bait, guys, chunk cuttle ladyfish or live cork pinfish or pilchards working real well. I heard you talking about that Suburban, Rick, and like I always say, get out there and get you a new Chevy truck.
All right, don't go anywhere, bud. I got a couple questions for you. First question I got, have you tried the new Bass Assassin Mississippi Hippie color? And if you have, how's your success been on it?
No, I haven't tried it, but Robin did send me some, and once again, I love his names for things. No, I haven't tried it, but I like the way it looks.
All right, so whenever you do take it out and try, what are you going to try for? Are you going to use the 5-inch jerkbait? Going to use the 4-inch jerkbait? What are you thinking?
I'm going to probably start with that 5-inch jerkbait on an 1/8 or 1/4 ounce jig head and bounce it around on the high tide around the oyster bars and mangroves. Okay, so Jeffrey, let me ask you too. Got great weather coming this weekend, so what do you think you're going to be doing on your charters? Well, we're going to be on the backside of the new moon with still big, strong tides. We'll be tarpon fishing in the morning and then fishing that big, high outgoing tide in the afternoon with live filters for snook and redfish. All right, one last question. You know, I was there a couple weeks ago. We were tarpon fishing up in the north part of your region. The fish, after they came out of the passes and they got up on those bars, pretty difficult to catch on the fly rod, and even we noticed that the bait fishermen really weren't doing much. What's your secret to knowing when you can get the bite or maybe not? Probably, Rick, is as the day gets brighter, you got to anchor up and use either cut bait on the bottom or a live thread fin under a cork, and just don't move around and try and lead fish and chase fish as much as early in the morning in the deeper water. All right, great questions, obviously great answers, and I'm going to tell you we're going to go ahead and get a look at the Tires Plus hotspots from the Central West region. Inshore tarpon fish around the afternoon on the outgoing tide with the cork and free line pass crabs on the backside of the bars just outside of most of the Central West inlets. And then offshore, mangrove snapper, look for the bigger mangs back out in 80 to 110 feet of water, holding on the ledges and the wrecks. You know, it gets hot and the fish move deep.
You're my little daisy chain, Rick.
I'm your daisy chain?
You. Yeah. Okay, let's chat with Captain Jim Ross from the Central East region, where when it comes to sword fishing, things are done in the dark up there, huh, Jim?
At least I got something.
Yes, they are. Daytime, it's not too popular like it is in other regions, but you know, most of the sword fishing we do is anywhere from about 800 to 3,000 feet deep. The anglers I've talked to over the years, and again this year, say that they typically start right around that 1,500-foot mark. And depending on whatever their drift is doing, taking them inshore or offshore, you know, they'll give it about 30 minutes to an hour before relocating, you know, for another drift. Now, if they do get a strike, they obviously take note of what depth they're in, and then they try to power drift and stay in that depth if possible. Right now, squid and baitfish are what you want to try and mark on your sounders. Once you find them, you obviously should be starting to get a bite. Our average swordfish runs about 70 to 100 pounds, and we do have fish that are taken, you know, well above that every single year, so sometimes up into the 300-pound class. The other thing that we've got right now is the triggerfish. It's not a real popular species on the reef for the most part, but I'm telling you what, these little things are pretty darn tasty, and they're fairly abundant this week. Captain Kevin Bragdon was running the charter boat Sea Wrangler earlier this week out of Port Canaveral, and he was telling me that he was doing really good on them out there. He's been hitting spots on the 21-fathom ridge, and he's having his customers drop down with some cut baits to the bottom. Now, he says that the genuine red snapper are pretty difficult to get past at certain times, but keep picking along that piece of reef line until you find where the triggers are, and you should be able to do pretty good. He recommends, and a couple of other guys recommend, two-drop chicken-style rigs. And our average triggerfish is running 2 to 3 pounds, but we've got fish to 5 right now, so there's some really, really nice gray triggers out there. The other thing that we've got going on is the inshore bite. The summer heat is really starting to kick in, and the habits of the redfish are changing because of that. Now, Captain Gary Brown has been working the spoil islands and sandbars that are real close to the ICW channel this week. And by fishing closer to that deeper water, he's been averaging 10 trout and 15 to 20 reds per trip. Now, most of these fish are running about 4 to 8 pounds, so they're decent-sized fish. And his secret weapon is a Rapala X-Rap model XR08 in that olive green color. And that's one of my favorites, and I think, Rick, that's one of your favorites, too, as well.
You're absolutely right. Hey, Jim, after you do the photo, I want to do the navionics from your region. So go ahead and tell me about the photo, and then I'm going to take it for the navionics.
Okay, that sounds good, buddy. Well, finishing up with this, he's also throwing hookup jigs and the Houdini color saltwater assassins. have been working really well if you fish them on a weedless worm hook. Now, we've got redfish that we were talking about. They're hitting cut ladyfish right now. And so, like Jeffrey was saying, middle of the day, don't move around much. Let the fish come and find your cut bait. Go ahead, Rick.
All right, guys. Listen, what we're talking about is right here off of Cape Canaveral and the point here. And the cool part about this is not necessarily inshore, not necessarily offshore. But if you take a look from the sonar soundings, as Jim was talking about, he told me earlier when I was getting the lowdown is in the fall right here along the beach, right along that trough, they're going to have some really good pompano, whiting, and also all the surf fishing that you can possibly do right here. Now, when I asked him about the tarpon fishing, I said, you know, Jim, do they climb up on all these bars? And you can see with all the contours from the Navionics sonar chart that certainly the tarpon love to congregate at night here. And then what Jim was saying is they would fall off as the daylight comes, they fall down a little deeper. And as you can tell, right along these contour lines is where you're going to want to watch for those fish rolling so that you can actually throw crabs to them. That's a great sonar chart from Navionics. It really gives you the detail right there off of Cape Canaveral. All right, Jim, what else you got for me inshore?
Well, the tarpon is my second species this week, and like you just said, Rick, you know, that piece of water is a pretty good piece of water on most days. But they've really kind of spread out. You know, we kind of got done with our spawning activity here last week and the week before, so they've kind of spread out all up and down the coast. They're not grouped up quite so much. But we're still getting some pretty decent fish, and you know, some of them in the nearshore waters are as small as 10 pounds, some of them are up to 100 pounds. Now, the smaller fish are also holding in the residential canals. They're feeding on glass minnows, and little pilchard-style flies and lures seem to be working pretty good. Actually, I was throwing the little saltwater, or not little saltwater assassin, the little panfish assassin 2-inch bluegill and crappie bait today on a little tiny hookup jig head, and we got 2 of them with my angler when we were out on the water today. But the larger tarpon are hitting crabs, pogies, and mullet right now. And for those fish, you want to look at that 15 to 25-foot depths. And those contours that you just mentioned, it starts in 10, 12 feet of water and rolls off to 25 or 30. And as that day comes on, that's what they do. They go a little deeper. So you want to put one of those baits on a VMC 7385 circle hook, and you want to put that on about a piece of 60 or 80-pound leader, depending on how clear the water is. And you guys and gals are going to have a really good chance at catching a large silver king when you guys and gals get out there this weekend. All
right, well, we're looking forward to the whole crew being to Daytona. I know that's one of our fun events, Jim. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the hookup lure hotspots from the Central East region. Captain Jim says inshore, sharks along the beaches use live or cut bait on heavy wire and a 10-0 VMC circle hook. And then offshore, 21-fathom ridge for triggerfish, grouper, and sea bass use cut or live sardines on a standard bottom rig.
Well, Rick, I can't believe I mentioned before, the Daytona Coke Zero 400 is next weekend already.
4 tickets.
4 tickets. And the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is giving away 4 tickets to one lucky winner who will get to watch the race with all of us. All you have to do is go to our website, ChevyFloridaInsiderFishingReport.com, click on the Facebook icon, and then like our page. You only have till Saturday, so make sure you do it, right now. And if you're already going to the Daytona 400, come out and meet the crew in the Chevy display on July 5th. We'll be there, we'll say hi, we'll have fun.
We'll
it's going to
have
be
the
great.
Chevy Suburban, the Wrap Suburban, and we'll have the Pathfinder in the Chevy display area. Really cool stuff. Chevy's being really nice to us this year.
I know they are. Oh my goodness, Rick. So what can we expect at the Daytona 400?
Well, what you can expect is a lot of chaos.
I've never been.
And it's going to be hot because during the day, you know, but it's a night race. And that's one of the most favorite things to me is to watch these pack of cars. Now imagine 43 cars doing over 200 miles an hour, and sometimes 3 and 4 wide and this far apart, Brie.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah.
Okay, anglers, it's almost that time where Rick and I get teary-eyed because we only have one more region to go, but it's a report you don't want to miss from the East region. We'll be right back. We crying yet?
No.
No.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Suffix, the world's most hardcore fishing line, Tires Plus, Total Car Care, the IGFA, Conservation Through Education. Get your hands wet. Florida Outdoor Experience. Lumber Rock. Captain Harry's Fishing Supply Company.
Introducing Helmmaster, Yamaha's first fully integrated digital boat control system. With Helmmaster, you can start your outboards with a swipe of a paw and control them with a single lever. Outboard trim and steering friction adjust automatically as you accelerate and decelerate. Adjust engine speed with the touch of a button. The Helmmaster joystick provides the means to navigate and dock precisely with confidence and ease. Take control of your next vessel with Helmmaster at your command.
Casa Vieja Lodge, Guatemala.
StarTron is a multifunctional fuel additive that uses enzyme technology. StarTron cures and prevents ethanol fuel problems. Engines powered by StarTron treated fuel start easily and run smoothly with fewer emissions and better fuel economy. StarTron restores octane to old substandard fuel. StarTron's enzyme formula enhances combustion for a more complete fuel burn. StarTron, it's not the engine, it's the fuel.
When you start strong, 2014 North American Truck of the Year strong, you keep going. Introducing the new Chevy Silverado Heavy Duty with an available 765 pound-feet of torque, best-in-class conventional towing, and over 100 billion miles of real-world Duramax and Allison experience on the road. Strong just got stronger. Chevrolet, find new roads.
The Billfish Foundation works worldwide to advance the conservation of billfish and pelagic species to improve the health of oceans and economies. One of the Billfish Foundation's primary initiatives is its tagging program, which relies on recreational anglers to tag billfish. The Billfish Foundation tagging database has grown into the world's largest and most extensive billfish tag and release program. The knowledge gained from billfish tagging allows scientists and policymakers to make informed decisions about our fisheries and our oceans. In addition to the conventional tagging program, the Billfish Foundation works with scientists and anglers on a worldwide variety of satellite tagging projects across the world. The tags provide real-time information of fish travels and oceanographic conditions they favor. By understanding the movements of billfish in areas particularly important to feeding, spawning, and other activities, the Billfish Foundation is able to provide policymakers with persuasive evidence for targeting conservation. Please visit billfish.org for more information to get started tagging today. You know, Brie, the part that's so cool about all the organizations, whether it's the Billfish Foundation, Bonefish Tarpon Trust, CCA, everybody's, I'm getting choked up over this. Seriously, everybody's working together.
Yeah.
And in my career, in my life, this is the first time that I can remember where we're all working together as one force, and that's why it's making such a big difference.
We're all in this together.
Yeah,
okay, we have Captain Mike Holliday on the line from the East from the East region, where Palm Beach is more than just a great island for some shopping and some fine dining. It's also where all the sorties hang out. Hey.
It really is, Brie. You know, the best action by far is off Palm Beach County, particularly if you're running out of Jupiter, where it's like a 22-mile run from Jupiter Inlet to the Palm Beach Canyon. Now, the canyon's around 1,100 to 1,800 feet deep, and then, you know, the guys that are further south in Palm Beach, like the guys out of Boca, they'll head almost straight out a little bit southeast to a spot they call the V spot. And if you're going to fish swords in the daytime in those areas, you want to be out in like 1,500 to 1,800 to 2,000 feet of water, you know, and looking for humps on the bottom that the fish tend to feed around. At night, those fish come to the surface to feed, so the bite can be as shallow as 1,200 feet. Most of the time, it seems to be more around the 1,500 feet range. And the guys at night will deploy baits in 50, 100, 200, and 300-foot intervals. Most of the swordfish are going to be under 100 pounds, but you never know when a 400-pounder is going to grab your bait.
So a lot of the boats fish 50 and 80-pound tackle with 300-pound monofilament leader, and you know, anywhere from an 11-0 to a 13-0 hook on it. For baits, squid, tinker mackerel, and ladyfish, those are popular baits at night. In the daytime, the guys seem to like dolphin or amberjack or bonita bellies that are sewn to the hook. Makes them a tougher bait, harder for the swords to knock off the hook, so you don't have to check the baits as often. And if you're going to make the short drift, guys fish the Palm Beach Canyon. If you want to make the long drift and drift all night long, head down to the V spot off Boca Inlet for your swords. Now, the other thing we got going, the June dolphin bite's probably been the most consistent I've seen in 10 or 15 years, with a lot of fish and even some big fish still showing up. The action starts as shallow as 75 feet, but the most consistency seems to be in 100 to 240 feet. That's where there's been these, you know, good thick weed lines for the last 2 weeks. I was talking to Pete Schultz of Fishing Headquarters in Jupiter. He's telling me that out of Jupiter, cold water has moved in, and it's pushed that, you know, from shoreline out to about 280 feet. So most of dolphin in that area are further out in 607, 700 feet of water. Out deeper, that's where you're going to find weed lines that are going to have the really, really, really big fish, like the 52-pounder caught on Monday by Terry Sullivan out of Wellington. He hooked that fish in 930 feet of water on a trolled mullet. As always, you know, ballyhoo with a pink or a blue and white or a green or orange skirt, those are going to be your top trolling baits. You can also slow troll just about anything live and get a dolphin to eat it. And if you fish shallow in that like 100 to 220 feet of water depth, plan on weeding through a lot of bonitas, but you'll also get some shots at sailfish and wahoo right now. And in Palm Beach County, maybe even some blackfin tuna. Average dolphin in my area tend to be 5 to 15 pounds.
All right, Mike, before we go inshore, I want to take a look at the hummingbird snapshot of the month. And I got to tell you, I was up in your region doing the CCA Interchapter Challenge, and I ran offshore with Ridge and Colin, and we found this monstrous school of bait. So let's take a look at this. Now, guys, if you have a hummingbird or any other electronic that actually has side imaging or down imaging, it's like reading an ultrasound, and I think it's important that you understand it. The wider the bottom declares the bottom. So the harder it is, this is what it's going to look like. This is then in the side imaging. Now, if you were to look at this traditionally on your sonar, what you would think is that this is the bottom. This is all bait. And the reason why you know, look at what it looks like in the down imaging that hummingbird makes. So understanding your unit and not having to adjust it will really help you understand how it works. As you can tell, one more deal, look at the contour, how this goes exactly like this as well as this. So understand that if you can know how to read it, learn how to read the unit, and then you'll be a much better fisherman. All right, Mike, what do you have for us inshore?
Dude, I live on that side imaging. I don't know how I ever lived without it. Inshore, you know, there's been a really good push of snook into the inlets. We have the new moon coming up this week. That's been a really first big push of our summer spawners. They're also moving out on the beach. It's really kicking off the summertime catch and release fisheries in those areas. At first light, you can throw soft plastics like a Mississippi hippie or a meat hook colored 4-inch saltwater assassin sea shad. You can cast those lures parallel to the beach or the shoreline, switch them twice, let them fall, or just use a steady retrieve, reel it back real slow, and just hang on. As the sun gets up, live pilchards, redfin, sand perch, pinfish, and croaker, that's going to get the bites from the larger fish. Flies will catch quite a few of them as well. The best action this time of year really is around, like in Palm Beach County, the Lake Worth and Juneau Piers, and the south side of Palm Beach Inlet, and the Coast Guard Station in Jupiter, on the north side of Jupiter Inlet, Hope Sound Wildlife Refuge, the jetties at St. Lucie Inlet, and the South Jetty and Fort Pierce. Those are all the top summertime snook spots in my area. If you're fishing live bait, match them up with a 3.0 to 5.0 VMC circle hook. That's to prevent injuring the fish, and also, you know, make sure you take the time to revive the fish before you let them go. Average snook in my region right now are going to be 8 to 12 pounds. It's also prime time for the tarpon biter along the beaches and also in the Indian and St. Lucie rivers. You can find the beach fish cruising in the daytime in 10 to 20 feet of water, really from the Vero Cove all the way south to Boynton Inlet. There's also a great bite in the north and south forks of the St. Lucie River and at Big Mud Creek. Most of those fish are under 50 pounds, and those bites are over early. By about 9 o'clock, those bites are done. On the beach, live crabs, pilchards, and sardines are the top baits, although a black and purple fly is pretty deadly in low light. Get ahead of the schools of fish, wait for them to come to you before making the cast, and never chase those schools from behind. That'll just put the fish down. On the inside, you know, you can crank up your Minn Kota trolling motor, slow troll a live mullet, or you can cast like a Houdini 4-inch sea shad with a 1/4 ounce jig head or a 1/8 ounce jig head at the rolling fish. Let it sink for about 4 seconds and then just reel it back slow. The bite's very soft. As soon as you feel a little tap, set the hook. There's also been a good number of fish right around the inlets before dark. Most of the tarpon around the inlets and on the beach are 50 to 120 pounds right now. I got a photo. That's Bob Smith and Bob Hager. That's just, you know, a normal beachfront tarpon that we got to eat alive, pilchard off Waveland Beach last Friday. And, you know, the tarpon are out there right now. It's going to be good for probably another 3 weeks, guys.
Hey, Mike, you know, Brie loves the bass fish, so why don't you give us a report?
Well, you know, Lake Okeechobee's just on fire right now, not with just big numbers of fish, but lots of big fish as well. Pick a spot, King's Bar, out in front of J&S Fish Camp. The outside grassy points of the monkey box, they're all producing good bass right now. Probably the best stuff for numbers is a submerged islands off of Clewiston and also off of Belle Glade. Those are covered with schooling fish. I was talking to FLW pro Scott Martin out of Clewiston. He's telling me that if you're not comfortable with running the open lake, this is a really good time to work the rocky stretches of the Rim Canal, fish a June bug colored creature bait or a Bass Assassin 8-inch worm with that curly tail. You know, and you can also, when you're fishing around the grass, fish prop baits. That's crushing the big fish on the cloudy days. Die dappers in that rainbow shad color are money in the grass right now. Okeechobee bass are averaging 1 to 4 pounds.
All right, thanks, Mike. Great report from the Bennett Auto Supply East region. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the waterwaycafe.com hotspots. Inshore, Lake Worth and Jupiter spillways, live mullet, tilapia, or swim baits, fish after the rains come through. And then offshore, cobia on the sand piles off a Stewart Drift area with live thread fins or sardines. And watch for those bull sharks, Brie.
Yikes. Bull sharks. Okay, don't pull up those anchors quite yet. When we return, we're telling you what species we'll be focusing on next week, right here on the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report.
When you start strong, 2014 North American Truck of the Year strong, you keep going. Introducing the new Chevy Silverado Heavy Duty with an available 765 pound-feet of torque, best-in-class conventional towing, and over 100 billion miles of real-world Duramax and Allison experience on the road. Strong just got stronger. Chevrolet, find new roads.
It's 200 streamlined horsepower of Yamaha forward thinking. The all-new F200 inline 4-stroke. Whether you're an offshore angler, pontoon cruiser, bay boater, or walleye hunter, the responsive and fuel-efficient F200 combines amazing power and versatility in one incredibly compact and lightweight package. The all-new F200. Legendary Yamaha reliability and the freedom of forward thinking.
It's been said that a bad day of fishing is better than a good day at the office. But down here in the Florida Keys, we have to disagree. Because with over 200 of the world's best charter boat captains and guides, there's no such thing as a bad day of fishing. The Florida Keys and Key West.
Thanks for tuning in to the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram and Twitter to keep up with all of our captains, contests, and appearances. You don't ever have to miss a show. You can find full episodes of the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report right on your YouTube channel. And don't forget to check out our website for fishing reports in your region. Visit www.ChevyFloridaInsiderFishingReport.com where you'll find everything you need to know to stay connected. Next week on the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report, we are talking marlin. Make sure to tune in to SunSports every Thursday. Plus, you can catch repeats of the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report on Fridays and Saturdays. Check your local listings for times.
Hey,
you got 30 seconds.
I want to thank RJ for coming. He's got some videos. We couldn't really get into the details of the sword fishing here, but he's got these 2 videos. You go to rjboylestudios.com or inthespread.com and go see. You know, he's got 2 hours to show you how to do this thing. It's not an easy thing to do, and you need to take a look at these.
Hey, everybody did a great job tonight. I appreciate how everybody.
Marlin fishing next time. I'll be here.
Thank you again
Marlin
for
next
watching.
week.
Don't
See
forget
you,
Sportsman's
everybody.
Adventures. Night night.
Bye.